It was a Friday. School was over for the week. Jake was leaving the school building with his best friend Colin. They were just joking around as they were walking to Jake's car when suddenly Colin asked, "Hey Jake, do you have any plans for today?" Unfortunately, yes. I have some chores to taking care of first at home, and I have no idea how much time that will take, said Jake, which usually is happening that he do take care of some chores at home. Ah, that's a bummer. How about tomorrow? Yeah, I don't have any plans tomorrow, said Jake, and that's great. Text me tomorrow when you can come over. Sure, I can do that. Both said goodbye to each other, and Jake drove home in his own car. When Jake usually gets home, no one else at it is home, since his dad is working in a commercial business and his mom works as secretary at the office. So he usually gets home alone. So he usually spends the most of the time doing his chores like prepare for dinner or to take care of his homework or even just when that's done he just usually play video games or hang out with Colin or even spend time with Skyla. Skyla is Jake's girlfriend. They have been dating since sophomore year of high school. Jake hadn't been able to introduce her to his parents since due to the fact that they work. And since they've been together since the first year of high school, it still hasn't even given him an opportunity for introducing her to his family. But he had always had tried to multiple times to into telling his parents about his girlfriend or anything like it. But every time the topic about dating or of his potential future, it was always brought up about his parents had planned for him, especially his dad had planned for him. And even though that was one thing that he didn't want to, he didn't want to have his entire future planned out by his own parents. He wanted to have his own future decided. He wanted to make his own future. He wanted to make his own choices what he wanted to do for work, for family life, and in the future. It was like his entire childhood hadn't already been planned out what he would which type of schools he was going to and who would be allowed of his friends and all that. Since his parents are quite wealthy and he was quite upset. But when he was in the end of when he was going to start high school, Lil had asked his parents if he could go to more public school for high school. Which, even though his parents at first were reluctantly were not hesitating to even allow it, but he told them since he had a lot of good grades since middle school, so they eventually agreed. It was then when he eventually ran to meet Skyla and even Colin. But today, things would eventually change. Because later that evening, or later afternoon, when his parents came home a little bit earlier than usual. But it did happen from time to time that his parents could come home from work a little bit earlier than usual, but it didn't happen so frequent. Hey mom, hey dad, you're home a little bit early today. Sorry son, we have some have to do had to come home earlier since we had some plans today. Oh, have you prepared for dinner yet? Yeah, actually, but I haven't even started dinner yet. I mean, it's time for dinner yet, though. Do you might be able to cook for more people? More people? Yes. I actually having an old friend of mine coming over with his wife and his daughter. Ah, sort of like a family meeting like that. In a way, yes. This friend of yours in the business as your dad? That's correct. All right. Right. I can do that. So Jake went back in the kitchen to prepare for adding some more food, and later in the evening, the food was finished, and now they were just waiting for the guests. This is not the first time that his parents had invited some old friends from college or even high school or something like that, or even colleagues from work. Since this had happened before throughout entire Jake's childhood, and he kind of got used to meeting some old friends or colleagues to his parents at home. But this time it would have been a lot more different. After the guests had come over and all they were sitting at a table and start eating, he was actually introduced to a girl named Natalie. She was about the same age as Jake, 17 years old. She was a cute, but the thing that changed his life for the worst was this particular dinner of itself alone. Jake, what do you think about Natalie? Asked his dad. Um, she seems to be a little bit, a little bit shy, but kind of cute girl. Why do you ask that? So, that? How about you feel to be that she's your arranged fiance? Jake had no idea how to even respond to that. First of all, he has a girlfriend already, even though he never been able to telling his parents about it. Another thing is, arranged fiance. And when he asked what he meant by arranged marriage, turned out, years ago, when he was only 2 years old, he he and Natalie's dad had made his deal to have him and Natalie in an arranged engagement. The whole being to put join the both families' wealth to increase the profits of both companies. But Jake had no intention to even complete this. But unfortunately, Jake couldn't even stop or even say anything. Even though Jake said that he was a little bit confused and asked if this was actually really for real, which his dad said, yes, it is. But then he asked why would he was being arranged engagement when he was only 2 years old, and when he asked his mom about it, she confirmed it happened. And he asked how they could even done it. I mean, they could have at least had told him much earlier on, but they probably would understand that he would try to figure out a way to get out of it. So that was the reason why they didn't tell. But when he told his parents that he had no intention to even getting in a being engaged with a strange girl that he never met before, even though did met her perhaps when he was only 2 or 5 years old or something like that, but when he said it, his dad firmly told him that it will happen and that he has no say in the matter. And that made Jake upset. He was furious. But he knew there was no point to even try to argue with his dad about this matter, in fact. So he chose to be quiet. He was smart enough to not to be even start an argue, especially in front of the guest. And he also knew that it was probably best not even to argue about this after the guest had left. So he instead remained silent remaining the remaining dinner. After the guest had left, he told his parents that he's going to bed a bit early, and his parents just okay. At least now they had told him about this supposed engagement. And in bed, he was pretty much upset. He told himself, how could his parents even have made this arrangement? It was like arranged marriage. And he thought, how can anyone in even these modern days even consider this a good thing to do? So he was planning to do this, to hope to find a way out of this. He knew that the talking about this to his parents, either to his mom or even dad, it wouldn't even work. If he tried to talk to his mom about it alone, tried to convince her to have her on his side to have this stopped, it probably could work, but But since she obeys much of his dad's commands or at least rules in the house, so that even the word not word work. Even if she would pretend that she would stand by his side, she could have betrayed him. So he didn't want to take the risk. But it was only a few people that he could trust. But he didn't know exactly who though. But luckily for him, he was really much happy to have those people on his side. Because even during dinner when Jake and Natalie was told to spend some more time just alone so they could talk and get to know each other. And while they did that, their parents were just talking in the living room, just having a conversation. Even that Jake thought that she was cute, but he didn't like her in the same way because he had even no idea how she is as a person. So the next day, Jake texted Colin and said that he's coming over around noon, which he said, "Okay, I will see you then." Jake was planning to telling him about this shocking news. And after he came over to Colin's house, they went just to his room playing games, and suddenly while they were playing, oh, by the way, didn't mention, apparently I'm engaged with a strange girl. Colin was like, "What? Are you joking me right now?" Um, nope. Turned out my parents set me up for this arranged engagement when I was just 2 years old. What? Are you kidding me? Said Colin. Nope, I'm not kidding you. It's for real. But how? I have no idea. And what are you gonna do? I have no idea for this moment, but I have no intention to do this. By the way, have you even told Skyla about this? Unfortunately, no. Dude, you really need. I know. I know. I'm going to tell her soon today, actually. Ah, I just. I just wanted to let you know about this. That's a good thing. But if something would happen to Jake, you have my back. No matter what. Thanks. It's appreciated. So remaining to the time to being playing the games together, Jake later went home to find the house empty. His parents were at work, so that was an advantage. So his parents would not even heard his call. So he went to his room and he literally called Skyla. He asked her if he could come over, and she said yes. And since she lived a little bit further away from his house, so he took his car. He drove over to her house, and since he was well loved by her family, she was the only child. Her mom was working as a lawyer, and her dad was a doctor. So they were well respected members of the community, and they were wealthy family, like his own. If Jake had introduced his family, telling about Skyla's family's wealth enough, they might have even accepted it, but he didn't want to take the risk. So when he got over, he asked her if her parents were home, and she said yes. And um, I have a kind of a situation that I really need your parents' help about this. He said when he stepped in. Oh, yeah, you may have to be sitting down for this. It's shocking news. So Skylar went to find her parents, and they all went in the living room sitting down. At first, it was silent. So, Jake, you need all of us here for some reason? Skylar said you have something to tell us? Um, yeah. The reason why I'm here and you all here as well is, well, how would I put it? Apparently I am engaged with another girl. Skyla was shocked. What? Did you? No, no. I never even met her until like yesterday. I wasn't even aware of this, he said. Apparently, my parents, at least my dad, had arranged engagement with one of his old friends from a different company, well, in a commercial business actually, to have this arranged when I was only 2 years old. And now I've met her for the first time, apparently. Well, if I did meet her for the first time. And while he was telling this situation to them, Kyla is shocked, upset, and was crying. He was comforting her. Scarlett's mom was telling them not to worry. Since she was working as a lawyer, she would have no problems to help them with this. I mean, what else can we do? Scarlett's mom said, since this is not much we can do right now, yeah, but by the way, maybe this could work, said Scarlett's mom as a random guess. Since you're 17 and you will turn 18 with a month, right? Yeah, that's true. Since when you will turn 18, you will be a legal age of it as an adult, then you can make your own choices. Meaning, you can decide what you want to do as, after all. Yeah, that's true, said Scarlett's dad with a smile. You know, you have our support. Thanks. I really have no idea how this will play out. We will figure out a way, said Scout's mom with a big smile. Later, when he went home, he acted as nothing had happened, even though when his parents did ask him what he has been doing today, and he said that he just went over to Colin's house to play video games and most of that time, which they bought it, and it wasn't even a lie though. So the remaining weeks that there were the time, Jake remained calm, but at the same time a bit furious. Later, he actually got some news about from Skyla's parents. They were helping this. They had managed to do some small things to help them. They had managed to get apartment in town for both of them, both him and Skyla to live together. And this apartment was in her parents' name, so they would be able to live together. And even the time when this was happening, Natalie with her parents came often over to Jake's house so Natalie's parents could talk to his parents so that he could spend time with her so that he could eventually fall for her. But he knew her better. He knew it much better that that's not happening. But he had no intention to even act on it. So he acted only to his parents' quote-unquote wishes. And during the time after the apartment was being fixed, or at least had been finalized, Jake started to move some of his own belongings to this apartment. Not all, but only slowly with some few things. Mostly childhood items, clothes, and other stuff. Some of the items that were remaining in the house, like furniture, temporarily still remain there. And he even actually also had a part-time job in a grocery store, and he even opened his own bank account with the help of Skyla's mom as the lawyer. And his parents would not have access to it. And after his birthday, he had already moved a lot of his most things to his new place and was leaving a lot behind. He had already moved most of the things. A few days after his birthday, Natalie and her family came over to spend time in his childhood home to talk about the marriage. Now he's 18, he is legal age to get married. But they decide to let him get married after he's finished high school, for most. But he actually told them while they were in the living room, he was actually had went to his room to grab a small backpack with some other last things that he needed, and they were a bit surprised. And they asked him what he was going. They thought that he would just leave the house for a few hours or something, but he told them, "Dad, Mom, do you remember when you told me about this arranged marriage about a month ago?" "Yes." "You two can really look after that, for that's not happening, because I'm not marrying Natalie." "What?" did his dad said, firmly, angrily. "I actually have a girlfriend already." But his parents didn't even care. He was stood firmly by the door, and his dad said, "You will obey us, especially your father." "Dad, I'm 18 now. I can decide for what I want to do." "Oh, you really are going to get out of this." "Yeah." "Right. If you even step out of the house, you are not even allowed back. And we'll cut off your from the wheel. You hear me? And we will take your car." But Jake just smiled and laughed like, "SSI, but if I even care about that at all. And how would you even support yourself?" "Well, I have a job, and my fiance's parents will help me." It turned out he actually proposed to Skyla only 2 days earlier, and she said yes and have her parents' support. Think about it. You're throwing your entire life out of this window. If you step that for once, shut up. What? You and Mom have planned out my life. Have you ever considered what I want to do in life? Have you? You arranged my supposed engagement with your friend, and not to be disrespectful, but I don't even care about that. I think Natalie is a beautiful person, but I have no intention to even to marry her. Not to be disrespectful to her or her family. I'm pretty much sure she could find someone else to marry, but this supposed arranged engagement, even in your eyes, is official. But in mine, it never were official. You can never, ever coming to me and say what I will say and do. I kept my mouth shut. And you have no idea how you were so disrespectful to me, your own son." And then he paused for only a few seconds, and he said, "If you had even met my fiance." "Oh, this is gonna be good. Her parents is probably a working class. Dad, how could you even think about social status is the most important? Would you have let me marry Natalie if her dad was not even the same business as you, if he was a working class family?" "Probably not, but that's not the matter." "No, it's the same fact, the same thing. And I could should mention this before I leave. Skyla's parents are a wealthy family. Her dad is a respected neurosurgeon in this town, and her mom is a highly respected lawyer." "Wait, what?" "Yeah, I had many times tried to intend to bring this topic about me and Skyla have been dating. I have been dating her since the first year of from high school. I had many times tried to bring the topic about her up and even tried to was even going to ask you if I could introduce you to her, but never happened. And I'm glad that I never did. And for a fact that this supposed father-son relationship that we have is not even real. You planned my entire life because you wanted my life to be like yours. I'm pretty sure you want me to take over your business when you retire. And then in fact that even if I were married to Natalie, I wouldn't even take over the business. I never even had any intention to run it for you. How dare I? Dad, you taught me to be independent, strong, loyal. But loyal to who? You. No way. You treat me as just a pawn in your own game. How did you think I would react? Even if that was true, even if I did marry Natalie, I wouldn't have made the same mistake as you did. Mistake? Yes. I call my upbringing, planning my life as a big mistake. And I'm surprised that even Mom went along with this. I was even considered to even ask her to stand by my side to have this engagement broken up apart. Thank God that I never did, because she probably would have betrayed my trust. And to be honest, I'm glad that you will disown me from the family and put me out of remove me from the will. In fact, I don't even care about it. If I had to build my own business from the scratch, like you did, fine. I don't even want to have any support from you, which I never expect you to. But, yeah. So, bye. I will never see you guys ever again. And even if you try to get me back, it won't happen. So, yeah, goodbye and forever. Natalie, I'm sorry, but I know you're a good person. You will find someone else to marry. And your parents, I'm sorry, but you should not have been forced her to in an arranged marriage. What if she actually did have someone else in mind? I mean, what if she was like in my position? Just think about it. You can't just go into arranged things without considered of her feelings. Those words left Natalie and her family quite speechless. But they actually nodded, and her dad said, "I agreed. I come to realize it was probably the biggest mistake." "Not you too, my old friend," his dad said. "I'm sorry, but your son is right. I should have considered what are the kids' feelings were like. Who cares about their feelings? They will need to listen to us." And his friend was like, "No, I'm sorry, but we are leaving as well. Jake, don't you dare step out of the house. Dad, I'm 18 and you can't control my life anymore. And like I said, I'm out of your life. And I already blocked your number on my phone, so don't even try." And then he just left the house, went to a car where Skyla and her dad was waiting. "So, how'd it go?" Skyla asked while they were driving back home to their new place. it it went better than I expected, to be honest, but you know, I'm kind of surprised how my family was never even in never had intent to stop it. "Well, you have our support," says Skyla's dad while driving. "Thanks, I really appreciate it. I somehow managed to convince Natalie and her parents, especially her parents, about this supposed arranged engagement was a bad idea. And let's say my former dad wasn't happy about this. So I hope that Natalie will find someone else to fall in love with, and so that her parents would not do the same thing again to have her put arranged. I mean, who in the right mind put their own kid at age 2 for an arranged engagement? It's crazy if you ask me, said Jake. After this, Jake and Skyla moved into the apartment and just living together. Even though he was a bit worried the rest of the school year that his parents would try to take him back or inconvenience him. But Skyla's mom said that since that he's 18 and an legal adult age, so his parents has no more saying about the matter. Which the fact were that even his parents didn't even try to reach out to him. Nothing about their phone, letter, or even visit. Well, if they even knew where he was living. Because he never left any intention to say where he was staying. After some time, both Jake and Skyla managed to finish high school and went to a local college. Skyla wanted to be a nurse, and Jake, during this time, he wanted to do something for the people. Skyla's mom actually inspired him to be a lawyer. So in college, he took law studies, and eventually both of them became what they wanted to be because they finished college and fulfilled their dream jobs. Skyla actually ended up working at the same hospital where her dad was working. And Jake, he managed to complete his studies of the law and became a lawyer. And he even ended up working with Skyla's mom under as like her apprentice to teach him more about the real things that couldn't have been taught at school. Skyla and Jake eventually got married. They invited his parents just to try to put the matters behind them and focus on the future. But despite they were invited, they didn't show up, which wasn't a big surprise to Jake though. He was willing to put this argument behind them and try to focus on for the future than simply rebuild his relationship with his parents. But since his parents never even wanted even to show up, so he didn't pay much attention to that at all. But over time, things changed. Since they decided to have a small wedding, and since they wanted to have the honeymoon they wished for, and it was Hawaii. Luckily for Skyla's parents, who were a wealthy family, gave the honeymoon to Hawaii as a gift. And just 2 years after, they had a daughter, which they named Angela. And when they first found out that they were expecting their first child, they were ecstatic. And especially Skyla's parents were so happy to be grandparents. And just another 2 more years later, they had a son, which they named Henry, after Skyla's paternal grandfather. But one day, things would change much in Skyla's and Jake's life. Mostly for Jake. When Angela turned 4 years old, during her birthday party, suddenly there was a knock on the door, and when Jake opened, he was stunned to see it was his mom standing there. They had even talked ever since he left his childhood home. She apologized from her strange behavior in the past and asked if they could talk. Even though that he actually, even though Jake was very hesitant to even listen a single word from his mom. But Skyla actually had a good heart, got a heart of gold, to tell him to listen. Give her a moment to explain why. Even though that he still were hesitating, but he agreed. She apologized for her behavior in the past and told that even she had mixed feelings about this arranged marriage from the start. And that surprised Jake for much of that. Even when he asked her why, she didn't try to do anything about it, even from the start, because it turned out it was Jake's dad's plan from the start. She was never told about this. Since he was approached by his old friend about this idea of having his daughter and Jake being arranged marriage from the start without talking to Jake's mom about it to have her for her point of view. So she tried to reason with Jake's dad about this. But it didn't even work. He didn't even listen. So even though despite she tried to have this arranged marriage to be removed, she even tried to go so far as even talk to Natalie's parents about this. But it was pointless. They actually already agreed that this was going to happen. So eventually she gave up and went along with it. As years went on, she still regretted not to have speak up further about it. She wanted to go to Jake's wedding also, but his dad refused to even go, and unfortunately, that was one of the final straws for her. She turned out that she divorced Jake's dad when Angela, his daughter, was only 2 years old, and that she wanted to rebuild her relationship with her son, which Jake wasn't not sure if he wanted that anymore. Considering what she stood by his dad's side the whole time. But it turned out it wasn't that what they expected, to be honest. Jake was later told that she really wanted to rebuild her relationship with Jake. Skyla convinced him to trust her because she could sense that his mom was honest, and that she did, and he was happy to have his mom back in his life. Of course, it took some time for them to even rebuild, and that he could actually trust her. But after some time, after about a couple of months or so, it actually had made a full trust back again. Even he went back to talk to his dad, but his dad refused anything. He said that he didn't have a son anymore, and that he never even had any grandchildren, that never wanted to see them either. And that had made him quite a bitter man. And Jake from that said, "Okay, I don't care anymore. At least I tried to rebuild our relationship, Dad. Mom was willing to do so, but you are completely stubborn donkey, you know that?" And he left. Jake, though, was happy to have his beloved Skyla by his side the whole time. And he was just happy that his mom had put her bad past behind her and was willing to give her life, remaining years that she had life left, to spend time to get to know her grandkids and to spend more time to get to know Skyla and even her own son. Eventually during college, though, Jake actually learned that Natalie did eventually find a guy and did eventually get married with him. They did run into each other and they laughed about this time when they were supposed to be engaged, but she appreciated that he stood up and spoke for her. And it was a good time because they became friends. Jake was just happy to be able to make an impression to one other people's life. And this is how Jake and Skyla found a true love, got a big family together, The end.